Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shannon Q. I am Shannon Q. Looks like I have sound. So that's huge for me. Looks like I'm managing to not screw up anything technologically thus far. There's still time. I am very excited. We have a special episode today with my friend Katie, but before we get into that, I just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping stuff regarding a fundraiser, actually, that I'm hoping you guys might be interested in helping me support. This isn't for an organization. It's actually for somebody in my personal life who I know who is finally able to get his top surgery, but needs to travel in order to do it. So he has started a fundraiser, which is linked in the description down below. His name is Theodore, and he's my friend's son. So I'm really hoping that if you guys have it in your hearts and you would like to help support Theo so that he can go travel to Montreal to get his top surgery, that would be stellar. That would be really, really cool. It's just kind of neat when I have a platform that other people don't have, that if somebody in my real life needs some help, I might be able to kind of do something to bring it to broader attention. So this isn't for an organization. Like I said, it's kind of selfish. This is somebody that I know in my personal life. I usually don't share personal fundraisers, but if you are so inclined, he has written a lovely description of what he plans to do with the money, because he's going to be traveling, like I said, to Montreal to get his top surgery. And after he's done traveling, whatever the insurance reimburses to him, he has pledged he is going to pay forward to help somebody else who might be in the same situation, and put a little bit aside to help him with further gender affirming care. So thank you for anybody who's willing to help support Theo, and no pressure at all. Just wanted to use my platform to help somebody I know in my real life. But all that aside, I am very, very, very excited because we are going to be having a special episode on Shannon Q today. We are going to be having my friend Katie, who I'm going to bring up on the screen, and I'm essentially just kidnapping her from her channel and making her do her show on my channel because I'm selfish and I want everybody to see what she's up to. And she's decided she's going to make me like angry today, I think, is probably what we're gonna do. We're both just gonna yell about stuff. So if you're interested in listening to us yelling about stuff, you're in the right place. So Katie, tell everybody who you are, where they can find you, and what we're about to do.
Right, yeah. So my name is Katie Montgomery. I am a dickhead who argues on the internet. I'm a skeptic and feminist and trans woman, and metalhead. Yay! And so basically I do a lot of arguing on the internet. I'm a bit like Shannon, just a bit of an annoying person who likes to argue. So I usually argue about feminism and LGBT rights, but also I've been on like the atheist experience and stuff. And you can find me on YouTube if you search for my name. I think it's probably in the description. And also you can find me on Twitter, which is the thing I'm addicted to most. But so this show is, I've had a little bit of a break from this show, but I'm planning on bringing it back. So it was a weekly show, and I think I'm going to make it a weekly show. I still need to work out all the details, but basically it's a weekly show, and we go through the last week's worth of gender critical, TERF, anti-trans, transphobic nonsense, and we debunk it together. We laugh at it together. Sometimes we despair at it together, and it's a way of like venting it out. It's a way of learning what they're doing. It's a way of like dismantling the arguments, getting a better understanding of it all. And sometimes it's hilarious. I mean, it's usually hilarious. We've had like, it's actually unbelievable. When I first started it, like there was a big week and that something had happened. And I was like, there's been so much nonsense this week. I just have to talk about it. So I did it. And then the next week I was like, oh, there's not been as much this week. I'm not going to sure if I get a whole show out of it. And it was too much. Like every single week, there is too much stuff to fit into a single hour long show. And it's all just the garbage they come out with just constantly. Like, so I guess a lot of Shannon's viewers are like skeptics and maybe people coming in from like the atheist community and this kind of stuff. And I just want to let you know, the one thing you should go away with from this show is the gender critical like movement is an untapped goldmine for ridiculous, over the top, hyperbolic nonsense. Like if you want to go arguing with people who cannot make arguments and who contradict themselves and say this most batshit nonsense stuff, like come get involved because we would love to have you. But so this show, basically, we're going to go through a load of like tweets and stuff and like do some news items. What I usually do in my show is I'll start with like the kind of the news and what some idiot celebrities have said, and then we'll cover some like main topics. So usually a main topic which will be hilarious, where like someone has, like the entire gender critical movement has got offended because a juice company unfollowed some one person on Twitter or something like that, and we see all their ridiculous reactions, and then we go into the brain rot, which is the general transphobic garbage. So I just want to do 2 warnings. Sorry, I'm ranting a little bit here, but just 2 warnings before we get going. One is, this is going to get very transphobic. It's disgusting. Like every single week that I do the show, it's, you know, the most vile transphobia you ever see often. And it's going to be okay because we're going to be laughing at it because it's fucking ridiculous. We're going to be dismantling it. None of it holds up. It's all irrational. It's all rubbish. Like there's going to be so many bits where I think Shannon's going to be laughing. So
I
it's
haven't
going to be
seen
good.
them either. I would.
All of this is fresh reactions. So like, you know, if you're not ready for extreme transphobia, then, you know, duck out. But I think that it's important to look at this stuff and to take away the power it has, because sometimes, I mean, this is kind of why I do this show for me as much as for anyone else, is sometimes when you see this on your own and you just, it's like overwhelming. You're like, this is so disgusting. But then when you share it with people and you take apart the arguments and you don't let it affect you so much, you realize it's just trash, and it totally takes the power away from it. And it, you know, that's how I help deal with it. And then the other thing is, most of the people in this I've anonymized. We're here to laugh at the arguments. We're here to debunk the arguments. We're not here to bully people. So please don't go and like harass these people. Don't go and search them down. Sometimes I don't censor people because they're celebrities or because they're, you know, organizations or government ministers or something. In which case, there's no point censoring them. But still, don't harass people. But, you know, if this stuff makes you mad, then start defending trans rights. Yay! So I hope that's a good intro.
That's a great intro. It's a great intro. And as per usual, we will, if there are any questions, we will take them at the end so that we can go through. We may as well just jump into it. Do you want me to start putting the first one up now?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Are you ready? Okay.
Shannon's
we're on screen. It's on screen. Everyone can see what James Lindsay has to say about pronoun usage. Go ahead.
So I just thought I'd start with like some, I guess, celebrity news. I don't know who this guy really is. He just seems to be someone with a hilarious amount of followers who just comes out with like idiotic take after idiotic take about everything. He's offended by everything, absolutely everything, which of course means he's offended by trans people. So here's him trying to make an argument, but it doesn't make any sense at all. So he's like, if you use people's pronouns, use all of them. Example, Kelly had a great point. She/her suggested that we should listen to him/them. Don't bat an eye. And he's obviously trying to be like, we can one up them because if we just use all their pronouns, it'll show how stupid they are. But like, why do they not understand that pronouns are normal? Like, that's how English works.
Yeah,
like,
it's like, that's what's frustrating me here, is because he's saying, hey, if you use the English language inappropriately, then it looks ridiculous. But it has, yes, right, yeah, absolutely, that's true. If you use every conjugation of a pronoun, it's gonna seem silly, but also people don't do that. That's not what it's about. And does he have just a problem with people having pronouns? Like
a lot of them do. You'll often see, like, you see people in their Twitter bios, like these gender critical people. Like, I guess this guy used to be in with the gender criticals, but then he's obviously a massive misogynist, and so I mean, they don't usually mind that, actually. In
really,
fact, they love that. Oh, absolutely, they love that. I went tangent onto that, but there's a serious problem with it. But you know, he had a falling out with them, I think. But the where was I going with? Oh yeah, they often will, like, in their bios they'll be like, I hate pronouns, or pronouns should be banned, and things like this, and you're like,
pronouns should be banned? What would that world look like if pronouns were banned?
Well, it'd just be names. I'd be like, I'm on Shannon's show, Shannon's Katie's friend, Katie thinks Shannon is good. I don't know.
That's the world they want. Okay. That is a massive overextension, just because pronouns exist.
There's a guy called James Dreyfus, who's like a UK actor.
Yeah.
Or was an actor. and he said something like, "I don't use pronouns," and so someone went and edited his Wikipedia so that every single time it said any pronoun, it just replaced it for James Dreyfus. Like James Dreyfus said James Dreyfus. James Dreyfus is James Dreyfus, or like, it's just like.
That's kind of funny.
Anyway, so this is just a little quick one, so we'll just move on. That was just like sometimes there's more celebrity stuff at the start, but I didn't want to like burden people down with all that kind of crap. So the next thing is just briefly, so Liz Truss, so this is kind of like the crappy news part. Liz Truss is the Women's and Equality Minister and also the Minister for Trade, and she is terrible at both jobs. Like chronically terrible. The other day she announced like, we've just done a new deal and we're going to be opening up to 50 jobs. And it's like, this is what we did Brexit for. Anyway, so she's recently disbanded the LGBT advice panel. The previous LGBT advice panel all quit because she was terrible and like she was ignoring them. She's completely floundering on banning conversion therapy, which was like a government promise. She didn't reform the Gender Recognition Act. Like she's done loads of like, she's done absolutely nothing for LGBT people and has rolled a lot back. And so her latest thing is she's attacking Stonewall, which is like the biggest LGBT charity in Europe, I think. It's definitely the biggest one in the UK. And they helped get us equal marriage and, fought against all the AIDS propaganda. And like, they've been around for a long time. In fact, I think one of the original members might have been Sir McKellen. So like they're a big, good organization. But the latest thing is attacking them. So if we just move on.
Oh, dear God. Okay.
So the Gender Critical's latest thing, they've been attacking trans rights and they've realized that some of the biggest support for trans rights is from the LGBT organizations. So they're really going hard on, all these gay rights organizations and stuff. And so you end up with stuff like this. 2021 and Liz Truss becomes a gay rights icon. Have to admit, I didn't see that one coming. It's like 600 likes, basically. Just from a gender critical person. Like, they're just trying to... So what this is them trying...
How though? Why? Wait. Why is she... So, wait. So Stonewall is a charity organization that's specifically been fighting for LGBTQIA plus rights.
For longer than I've been alive.
For ages, and her attacking them because they're inclusive of trans rights in their mandates. And
yeah, they just want equality for everyone, and that's bad because trans people are part of everyone. So
that makes her a gay rights icon.
It's so garbage. So one of the main gender critical arguments is
I'm blown away.
Trans rights are bad for women. That's like their front flagship. And they'll always just be like, if you support trans people, you hate women. And obviously that's garbage for a whole host of reasons, lots of which we'll come on to later. Mm. But the other angle, they realized that they could do this, like, think of the women, think of the children argument, but they could also do it for gay people. So now they say like, gay rights are clashing with trans rights, which is also obviously completely nonsense because no single right that gay people have is affected by trans people in the slightest. It's even more garbage than claiming that women's rights are affected. So there's this kind of like effort in the UK media to try and pose the two against each other. And so it means that whenever people attack trans rights, there's always someone who claims that it's for gay people, usually a straight person. And now they've managed to pivot. They managed to like move the conversation out. I mean, this is in all the major newspapers, talking about how all the LGBT organizations are bad for gay people. Like that's actually what they're saying, which is just incredible. So when they attack them, they come out with this garbage. But then if you just click onto the next one, you'll see another opinion by this same guy is, I got to click on two, is LGBT charities need to leave kids alone. They're fulfilling every dark slur any homophobe ever uttered. Children do not have sexualities or gender identities. What? I cannot believe I have to say this. Blah, blah, blah. But it's like,
this is... What do you mean children don't have gender identities? Like, if I ask, because children know if they're boys or girls, right? Like, that's a gender identity. So they're saying I don't understand what they're saying here, because they would either have to say the children are like this sort of like androgynous, amorphous, non-gendered entity up until a certain age, which just is demonstrably factually
18.
Incorrect at 8. So if that logic stands, then that means that a cis person who like can't identify as the gender that matches their birth assignment until they're 18 either.
It's just so, I mean, it's plainly like, it's lots of this is surface level garbage. Another thing, surface level garbage is the sexuality. Like,
Right.
Did you ever fancy someone before your 18th birthday?
Right. Like
I think so. I think most people know whether they're gay or straight before they're 21 or whatever age they're trying to claim this is. So it's total nonsense. But then also we can just look at this with evidence and see that there is an age, it's when adolescence starts, when we can diagnose someone with having gender dysphoria and know that there's like 99+% chance they'll have it for the rest of their life. Yeah. And that's the time that it's best to start treating. Like, that's just what the evidence shows. So it's not just that this is total garbage, colloquially. It's not just that you can walk up to a group of kids and be like, are you boys or girls? And then when they all obviously tell you straight away and you say the other one, they'll get all annoyed. It's also that the science doesn't back it up. So anyway, but this is just such a classic, like, LGBT charities are coming for the kids. Like, you know, they've been saying this since like the 70s or beyond. So it's just more of the same. And I just want to kind of hammer that home. Anyway, if we go on to the next one. So that guy's, I guess, a somebody. And then if you just look at the, like, nobody's reaction to this, they just come out, the stuff they come out with, Stonewall are captured by a cult. And then this next person says, actually, maybe this is one that you should read out.
I don't even know. Is that even a word?
SW is Stonewall, and then it's like lieutenants or lieutenant.
Okay. So Stonewall are lieutenants, more like mercenaries paid by top brass in Medi Pharma in a war on women, children, language, reality itself, and I'm assuming that's insidious mold spreading tendrils into every part of life. If only it were a tiny cult or a speck of dirt, not so easy to remove or clean.
15 likes. Whoa. 15 likes. This kind of stuff, like, this isn't, I obviously with some of this we do end up picking out the crazies, but this isn't like, there's not like I had to go scouring to find some mad take like this. This kind of thing, these takes right now, I think Stonewall's even trending in the UK right now. If you go and look, you'll find tens, hundreds of takes like this. They genuinely think that, like, they've got this phrase institutional capture, where they think that Stonewall is some like crazy organization that's managed to trick the whole country into believing in LGBT rights, and like there's some cult and it's a war on language and reality itself.
Well, that's also some QAnon level nonsense too, because they're essentially saying Stonewall, like the medical industrial complex, is clearly funding Stonewall so they can push their pharmaceuticals on people, and that's some tinfoil hat level. What, like, where do you even get that from, except for out of your head, just by making internal postures?
I can tell you where they get it from.
Oh, Jesus.
They get it from.
Of course.
There's a whole crew. In fact, if anyone wants to know more about this, you can either watch one of my other shows. It's called XX Factor, or if you search for a lady called Krista Peterson, and she's great. She's done loads of research on this, and they have a few people who've been pushing these like conspiracy theories like this about big pharma and about a group of billionaires who just happen to be Jewish, invented trans rights in 2008. So if you ever see someone talking about Martine Rothblatt and, everyone's favorite, George Soros, if you see those coming up in conversation, if you see them talking about big pharma, if you're talking about this like war on reality, and some more of this is going to come up. It's quite common in the gender critical movement, and lots of the biggest, most top players who you would have heard of if you've talked anything gender critical, lots of them believe this stuff. And
so it invented trans rights in 2008 specifically?
So they've got this thing where part of their argument, they have to argue that trans rights are like totally new, and trans people are totally new, because they'll say we can't have trans people in the bathroom, and the obvious argument is
they've been there forever.
Yeah, so we've got the evidence already that trans people aren't a danger in the bathroom because they haven't been for the last 100 years. So what's going to change? So instead, they have to claim that things are different. But then you have all these like trans people who are from those time. So you ignore most of them, but they came up with this idea that before like 2008 or whenever it was, trans people trans women used to say, oh, trans women are men, and they used to use men's bathrooms. And that's like, lots of them genuinely believe this world where There's real transsexuals who know their place, and then there's all the crazy trans rights activists who are paid by paid by Martine Rothblatt to something war on reality.
So how do they reconcile with the fact that there's trans people just as a population percentage everywhere all over the world? In any population, you're going to find trans people of all different faith backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, like belief systems. Do they go to people and approach them and say, hey, can you be trans, please, so that we can use you in our incredibly intense conspiracy theory that we're like, how does that even work?
There's two arguments to this. One is no. Okay. That's the most common one you'll get. And the other one is they won't have any answer for that, and they won't just deny it. And that's fine. The other one is that they'll say that not only were like trans rights invented then, but the concept of trans people that we know today was invented then. And before then, there was like transvestites, which were just like men who like wearing dresses, who admitted they were men. And then there was like extremely dysphoric people who may have like theoretically benefited from some kind of medical intervention, but they're so rare that we don't need to talk about them. And so they have this idea that in all these other cultures, when you say, well, you know, there's evidence of trans people from like America before the colonialism. Oh yeah. And they're like, no, because it was different, because they didn't use the word trans. And like a classic example.
That's just semantics.
Yeah. And a classic example, which we're going to see later, is they'll say the Nazis didn't they didn't care about trans people, and in fact they liked trans people, and they only put gay people in concentration camps, which is bullshit. They like the famous picture of them burning books is from them burning all the trans research in some institute, which I can't remember what the name is because it's a long German word. But the reason is because the Nazis treated trans people as like a type of gay person. So they didn't have the word trans people. They were just like, we're going to kill all the homosexuals. And that included trans people. So it's just like a little word game. Like those people still existed. They just didn't describe them the same way. But if you don't literally describe them exactly the same way, then they'll just say it doesn't count. So that's the little dodge. They'd be like, oh, well, in this other country, they don't have a word for trans people. So therefore there aren't any trans people. So your argument doesn't count. And that's genuinely, that's the top tier. That's the maximum level gender critical apologetics for this. It's that, no, it's just different for some reason.
But it still doesn't even make sense, though, because how do you explain the existence of any trans person that isn't part of this conspiracy? Like, anywhere.
Whoa. Don't start digging enough.
Make it make sense, Katie. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it doesn't make any sense, but we're going to come back to this. Okay. So the other piece of news I thought I'd cover. So I haven't done one then? Yeah. Okay. I usually do this show every week, and there's usually garbage to cover every week. Mm-hmm. And I've been on for like 5 weeks because I had a bit of a burnout, and I just sort of cover a couple of news items just to show the kind of stuff that we usually do. And so this was a lady from the UK called Paris Lees. She's great. She's like, I guess she's like a celebrity, and she's like a model and a writer and a journalist. And she's just written a book, and it's called What It Feels Like for a Girl by Paris Lees. And What It Feels Like for a Girl is like a lyric from a Madonna song, or it is a Madonna song. Mm-hmm. And apparently like all the chapters in her book are related to different songs in her life at the time. I haven't actually read it yet, though. I've just got her book, so maybe check that out if you want to read a book written by a trans person. Should be really cool. It's got loads of good reviews. But anyway, the gender criticals were really offended by this, like just because it's a trans person doing something, of course. But here's a completely rational response from a gender critical man who has the suffragette flag colours in his...
This is from a dude?
This is from a man. The title of this book, an assault as far as I'm concerned. Not even appropriation, an assault. What? 89 likes. So if we just go on to the next one, because all of these, like there's so many of this. This is even more extreme. And so this is BBC Women's Hour. Finally had a trans person on. They have gender critical people on almost every week with no trans people to argue their case at all. Finally have a trans person on, not to talk about trans rights, but to talk about their book. And then this person says, oh, and next week we'll have the KKK Grand Wizard to talk about the experience of Black people and racism. Like, what are you talking? Like, this is just a normal trans woman talking about a book she's written, and you're comparing her to not only are you comparing her to the KKK Grand Wizard, you're also saying the BBC having her on is like having her on to talk about race. Like, what are you talking about? It's just so ridiculous. 150 likes.
So they're likening a trans woman's existence who just happened to write a book. And I'm assuming that they're probably holding objection to the fact that she called her book What It's Like to Be a Girl, because to them, they would say that's why they're saying it's appropriation, because they're transphobes who don't recognize who she is and that she is a woman. So that's where this analogy, like, that is so deeply hateful, deeply hateful to do something like this, and to liken being a woman and transmitting your experience as a woman to the world as being somebody who is the antithesis of that is just really gross. That's gross.
Yeah, it's so disgusting. This is so disgusting. It's like, even when you step back, you remove all of the the context and all of the emotion, this doesn't make any sense as an argument at all. It's just total garbage. But if you even begin to approach the reality and the context of this, it's disgusting. It's next level. It's just so ridiculous. They've actually, this is such a common take, they've actually managed to get to the situation where a trans woman just existing is like an assault on them as a person, like an attack on the whole of women, and they're raising reality. And it's just this is such a mainstream gender critical take. Maybe not going as far as saying Grand Wizard of KKK, but to suggest that trans people existing is an offense is very common. But talking about the name, if we just go on to the next one.
Okay, I don't know if I'm ready.
This lady says, why do these men, so talking about Paris here, who is obviously a woman, why do these men always refer to themselves as girls? No grown woman calls herself a girl. 47 likes.
I say I'm going out with the girls. I've said that before. And also, that's a weird comparison. That's just language policing.
Do you know who else has said that before?
Who?
If you click on the next slide, they've said it before.
That's beautiful.
There's actually quite a few of these. As soon as this lady said that, people obviously just wrote girl in the search box with her name. There was loads of times where she said, that's because I'm an Essex girl. You need to read on a bit because I'm a very tall girl. Like sometimes women refer to themselves as girl. So again, there's layers of stupidity here. Because first of all, it's like a song lyric. So it's not like Paris is even necessarily saying that. It's a song that relates to her. Because if you read the lyrics to that song, it's related to her part of that part of her life. So it's already like some art thing. But then the next level is she's saying no women say this, when it's obviously have you ever met a woman in real life? All of my friends say we had a girls' day yesterday. Mm-hmm. They're like, girls' day. We've got a chat that's called or it used to be called Girls' Day or something, on Facebook. Do you not have any friends at all? And then extra stupidity on top, of course, you say it about yourself. So they always do this double standards things about trans women. It'd be like, oh, trans women are disgusting because they just put on lipstick to make their lips look big because they just want to attract men or something. It's like, you're wearing lipstick right now as you're saying this. What's wrong with you? Why can't you, can you at least not be consistent in your criticism?
No, obviously not. Because
why is it obviously most of the people who call, most women who call women girls are cis women, because there's a lot more cis women. So if you've got an issue with this, start there. Just total garbage. Anyway, so that's some classic gender critical reactions to trans people achieving things. If we go on to the next one, this was a pretty grim topic. So we're going to get into grim zone. So this goes back to the Stonewall thing from earlier. So this person says, who do you trust more? Stonewall, Jimmy Savile, who's the most famous paedophile in the UK, Adolf Hitler, or Rose and Fred West, who murdered children. And let's look at the votes. Let's look at the 350 votes, one of which was mine. I had to see the results. 42% have chosen Hitler. 33% have chosen Fred and Rose West. I get this. This is trying to be some kind of like sarcastic joke, but it's kind of failed. And we'll see the reactions in a minute. Like, it didn't really seem like a joke when they're talking about it, and lots of people didn't take it as a joke. But to try and to get this situation where this group, like Stonewall, one of the things they did was get rid of Section 28, which was a law banning schools teaching about LGBT kids. And it affected my life greatly, because I didn't come out as a kid because I didn't know about it because of this bullshit. Like, Stonewall fought for marriage equality. Stonewall has achieved a lot. Like, not single-handedly, there are loads of LGBT charities and loads of people working really hard, but they've made a big impact. And these guys are just straight up comparing him to Hitler.
Because I'm just trying. I always try to figure out how people get to thinking the way that they think.
Yeah.
And I'm having a difficult time drawing any kind of line between Stonewall is supporting trans rights and you can't trust them.
It's so detached from like reality, and it's because they've got their little cult echo chambers, and it moves quite fast, and they're always like, they have all these like little memes that build off each other, and then you end up like, if you don't follow it, it's like you say, it's really hard to just looking at this. You're like, what the fuck is this? And the reason is, I think this probably comes from, as a gender critical historian, this probably comes from Alison Bailey is someone who's involved with LGBT Alliance, who like are opposed to everything Stonewall stand for.
Yeah, I don't like that.
They're currently campaigning against a conversion therapy ban. She lost some work because she's like very involved in the gender critical movement, and Stonewall basically said to her, like, she's like a barrister. They said to like the legal profession, like, she campaigns against trans rights. And so now the whole gender critical movement thinks that Stonewall goes around getting gender critical people fired. And so therefore you can't trust them, because they used to trust them. That they all claim that you've always supported gay rights, and most of them are homophobic, so it's total garbage. But yeah, so this is where this has come from, but you wouldn't know that just looking at it. You're like, why are these people comparing Stonewall to Jimmy Savile?
So Stonewall did a thing that pissed them off because it was counter to their bigotry, so now they have to paint them as untrustworthy. And okay, yeah, now it makes sense to me. That's just petty, ridiculous.
It is, bullshit. But if we look at some of the replies, so the next one, so there was a lot of replies to this. In fact, this ended up getting thousands. This ended up getting thousands of votes, but I took a screenshot at this point before trans people discovered it, because then the Stonewall number went up a bit, and anyway, I just screenshotted it early. But here's someone saying Hitler was the most honest. At least he practiced his atrocities. This is comparing to Stonewall. Atrocities in plain sight. Utterly ridiculous.
Oh my God.
I mean, this is comparing to a charity that, like,
So Hitler was honest because, oh man, my channel's gonna get taken down. That's fine. So Hitler was honest because he was at least open about what he, like, you could see the horrible shit that he was doing, which means that, like, what they're saying is that's tantamount to saying we can't even point to the thing that Stonewall did. We just know it's there. Like, so
I mean, like,
we know they did something. They're up to something. So we can't trust them because we can't prove that we can't trust them. Whereas Hitler, we knew. Jesus.
But also, I mean, this again,
Wild.
There's layers of stupidity. The comparison's a complete joke. It's beyond. Like, you have to lost your mind to gender critical to be in this deep. But then also, it's just false. Hitler wasn't honest. He didn't practice his atrocities in plain sight. He lied all his way into power. And then when he was in power, he, did loads of bullshit stuff without telling people. And like, it was disgusting the whole way up. He was not an honest person. Anyway, if we move on, it gets worse. I can't believe all of the child abusers listed. Stonewall is the least favorite child abuser. I wonder if it's because they used an underhanded method to encourage children to mutilate themselves, whereas the other three were honest about their abuse. Bearing in mind that some of these people were murdered. Jimmy Savile, honest about his abuse. Jimmy Savile was like a national hero for his entire life. He was like, he might have even been knighted. Like, he was like literally one of the UK's most famous celebrities. And after he died, they found out that he was a paedophile. And it turns out that he'd been doing all this grim stuff literally his entire life. And they're saying that oh, at least he did his stuff in the open. Like, what are you talking about? You disgusting person. Like,
Holy
absolute
shit. Brain
rot. This is why I say brain rot a lot, because your brain has to have rotted to get into this position. Like, this isn't rational. This isn't based on any kind of sane. Like, everyone in the UK knows the story of Jimmy Savile. It's like a national horror story.
I'm literally speechless.
I know.
I still don't even.
It's gonna get worse.
It's Jesus Christ, because I'm still not even super clear. Like, Stonewall did a thing that made them mad because they like a woman who's very litigious at going after trans rights, and Stonewall wouldn't support her. So that's tantamount in their mind to like being like the most atrocious humans in existence in history. That's those are equivalent mental schemas to them. Yeah.
Yes, they are. And so it's just worth pointing out, actually, I probably should have included a slide of this week, or maybe last week. The head of Stonewall was interviewed by the BBC, who did a bullshit both sides article on Stonewall. And the head of the BBC said, transphobia and the gender critical movement is just like all the prejudice we've ever seen before: homophobia, racism, sexism, anti-Semitism. And then they picked up on this. You're calling gender critical people anti-Semitic? Firstly, she wasn't. No, she was saying that irrational prejudice is irrational prejudice.
Yeah.
But secondly, also, yes, there is a lot of anti-Semitism in the gender critical movement. As we're about to see, if we move on a little bit, like we've got some more, like that's, I guess we can kind of skip past that one. It's kind of the same thing. But like now we get to the point where it's like, and they did actually vote for him in the 1930s. Fascinating stuff. And then perhaps Adolf wasn't that bad.
No!
And it's like, well, maybe if you're attracting these people to your, like, this person's only, they haven't got any likes. This is a nobody. But then if we just go on to the next one, it's like someone's like, see, this is how people ended up voting for Adolf.
Oh
like,
my God.
It's weird that they're using his first name, I think. This person got 46 likes. And then it's like, this is off the wall. I've heard he was actually black and overthrown for discovering a successful way to implement socialism.
Stop it.
Anyway.
Stop it.
Like,
if this is the type of person that your movement is attracting, like, buy a mirror. Holy shit.
I know. And like, so I wouldn't want to say, like,
those are
obviously
your allies. Fuck me.
Yeah, obviously every yes. So obviously every movement is going to have crazies. There are going to be, there are feminists who are crazy, there are trans people who are crazy, and like, who come up with this conspiracy garbage. But the two important things here are, like, you're already saying that Stonewall is worse than Hitler. Like,
But actually, Hitler's good? Is that what
I And also, like you say, it's not just that there are crazy people in the movement and like coming up with horrific stuff. It's like, that they are kind of natural allies. It's like, we all know that the far right doesn't like trans people. The far right is like pro-gender critical. So
yeah.
Anyway, we can move on from the Nazi
yes, please.
stuff.
Jesus. Okay. All right.
Sorry. So I think from here it doesn't get as heavy, but now it's
just insults just like leveled at you now from your on.
We're entering the brain rot zone, so we can get some brain rot out the way.
All right.
So this person who is I think a B tier gender critical person, like she's been in this for years and everyone knows who she is if you've spent any time arguing. And she says, I find Katie Montgomery utterly duplicitous. But she spelled both my names wrong, of course, because you might as well be incompetent everywhere. But I just want to highlight this Katie thing. It's such a classic gender critical insult to put your first name in quotes. But like, oh, this is so ridiculous. For like, I mean, firstly, it's just pathetic, isn't it? Like, what are you trying to say? That's not my real name. But like, what do you think a name is? Are you saying that birth names are the only real names? Are you saying my name's like on my chromosomes somewhere? Like, what is a name? Like, everyone can change their name. Like, traditionally, like half of the country changes their name when they get married. Like, what is this? How is this an insult? It's just so stupid. And when you're claiming to be critical of gender and you put quotes around my name because it's too feminine for me and your idea, like, where does this come from? It's just so pathetic. And they will love this stuff, like 200 likes on that one. But the next one, I said about that, I was just like, this is so pathetic, mate. Like, what are you doing? And this person replied saying, people are not psychic. You look like a biological male, so there may be some doubt in the name. So you like, it's just so pathetic that they can't just say, like, I don't think you should have that name, or I don't like you, or, you know, trans people are, like, they always have to come up with some little pathetic excuse. Like, so when you doubt someone's name, you put their name in quotes. Is that what you're trying to tell me? No, you don't. Like, what are you on about? This is so dumb. And then, like, you're a biological male who chooses to live how he imagines women to be and changes to a woman's name. What is a woman's name? Like, it's just so garbage.
I'm
anyway
right now.
I can feel your rage. Bring it back up to laughing at them.
I'm trying, but you're my friend, so that makes it very, very difficult. And also, like, nobody should have to deal with this shit.
This person said they were going to report me to the police.
For what? Because your name is Katie? Like, why? What?
Because
why?
I can't remember. I don't know. So what it was is I said something like, like, you're not going to stop trans. I wasn't talking to them. I was just I was doing a tweet and I said, you're not going to stop trans people until you, like, basically trans people are never going to go away. So you're never going to stop trans rights as being a thing that people want. Yeah. Like, until you put us all in concentration camps again, like, you know, just as a comment, because, you know, it has happened before. And
it still won't stop anything anyway, because they'll just keep being born also afterwards.
Exactly. That's why we're back after the last one. Yeah. And they were like, this is, I don't know. They were just trying, they tried to report me to the police for that tweet.
For what? Whatever. All right, we'll go to the next one. Anyway, I'm going to stop trying to make sense of this idiocy.
So here's a good one for you. Okay. We're back into science territory. Here
Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
So, for anyone listening, men have more DNA in common with a male chimpanzee than a woman, I believe.
I choked. That's Katie. Oh my God. They have the same amount of chromosomes.
Well,
more
don't
DNA
worry,
in common with a male chimpanzee than I believe. Yeah, I believe. Based on my highly informed scientific opinion that I'm sharing with you on Twitter today.
I remember when I saw this tweet, which was on the 26th of May, I was like, I've seen this take before. I remember laughing about this in like 2017. If we just click onto the next one,
no.
This is not a rare take. This is not a rare take.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, these are so over the top. I love these so much. A trans woman has more shared DNA with a male chimpanzee than a female human. Like, I have as much DNA in common with a female chimpanzee as I do with a Y chromosome. No, a human Y chromosome. That's interesting. And this guy has as much DNA in common with anyway. But my favorite one of these is there is nothing in capitals. There is nothing. A trans woman has more in common with women than with men. Nothing. Men and trans women have more DNA in common with male chimpanzees and female humans. Like, nothing? You saying that, like, you know, I got boobs. Like, are you saying like, more in common with men and male chimpanzees?
So how do you think genomes work though? To like, oh my God, I gotta stop trying to make sense of this. So are they saying that like males of primate species have completely different DNA? Like the genome is different than females of primate species? Like that's part of sexual dimorphism to them is that we wouldn't be able to breed.
I know. Like you say,
doesn't
they've
make
got
any
different numbers of
sense.
chromosomes. Like,
We don't even have the same number of chromosomes. Chimpanzees have one more chromosome pair than. Oh my god.
like,
Oh my god.
Sometimes I try and imagine when they say this stuff. I'm like, what would that actually look like? How have they got here? Like, I cannot imagine this.
Like
Where
they
is...
saw it something like maybe I don't know. I don't know. Is there like how creationists have like their own science where they have like their own websites? Is there like an equivalent with gender critical people where they do junk science with the artifice of looking like actual science, or
kind
they
of
like
it's not as organized because they're much new movement. They have like their like fake academics. They've got their like Andrew Wakefield paper, so they've got their like rapid onset gender dysphoria paper, which got trashed, and they've got like a few academics who suspiciously aren't really published much, but most of it's just this like rumor stuff. Like obviously some high up gender critical person at one point, probably on some stream, said men have more in common with chimpanzees, and then they were like, oh, now that's a fact, I'm going to say that all the time. But like this has been around at least since 2017. I remember it was someone, I'm looking for the screenshot if anyone in chat has it. There was someone with like a balloon head with a smiley face drawn on it, and they said the same take, and then like some more people joined in with it, and there was a whole conversation of it. Anyway, so this next one is for you. I'm going to read out the first bit, and then you can read out the t-shirt if you can see it.
I can see the t-shirt. Okay. Yeah.
So this person, who is the person who owns Vigil for the Lost, which I might mention about in a minute, for anyone who remembers from previous episodes. Egan's question, very important when you meet the handmaidens who think men can be women. Oh, that's what we think. She's like, you can buy my t-shirt. This t-shirt is for helping make the world a mentally healthier place. So here we go, Shannon. Would you like to do the honors of reading this t-shirt out with all of the punctuation and grammar included?
Jesus Christ. Do you know that validating she/her pronouns, vagina, dress, breastfeeding, pregnancy, menstruation of autogynephilic men brings them sexual arousal? Question mark. Fucking asshole. Just asking if you don't mind being their sex toy.
What the hell is pronouns vagina dress?
She, her pronouns vagina dress, breastfeeding, pregnancy, menstruation of autogynephilic men. Somebody put that on a shirt. Like somebody literally made this design and looked and went, you know what? This needs to be on a t-shirt. This is perfect. I nailed this. Everyone's gonna want this.
I love the tiny little red question mark as
know.
Well. I kind of want to buy this t-shirt because like I don't want to give her money, but I might print my own version of it.
Just do it. Go get it. Do a Teespring or something. You just print one off for yourself, just so you can have it. I'm not even sure what are they trying to say here? Do you know?
So if we want to decode, what she's trying to say is trans women are perverts, and she's listed some things which 155 likes, by the way. She's listed a few things that cis women do in her mind, and then has said that autogynephiles, which is some garbage term in the past for trans women, it's like you're like in love with the idea of yourself being a woman, you're like, you have a fetish for you being a woman, like garbage. But
okay,
so that's what this is attempting to be about. I just love the idea, like, because she's released this in lockdown, and a lot of lockdown is going to be people radicalizing into their weird little online cults because they've not been seeing their families, they've not been seeing their friends, and they've been talking to these like echo chamber people like for over a year now, and this is their life. And lots of people, this is their life because, you know, gender critical completely rots your brain. And some people, like, I mean, presumably several people, when this has got 155 likes, have bought this t-shirt, and they're gonna wear it and they think it's cool, and they'll send it to little group chats, and it's all gonna be great, and they'll all big each other on. And then the pubs are gonna open, and they're gonna go to the pub, and someone's gonna go, pronouns vagina dress. They're gonna have to suddenly explain themselves, and they'll be like, no, because there's this big conspiracy, and like all the trans women, they're actually like they all and it's gonna be so cringe and embarrassing.
Oh my god. And like some of the, like, not every cis woman is gonna be pregnant, and like they're saying validating this for trans women. it doesn't make any sense. Like, it just doesn't even logically follow.
It doesn't. It's just like a load of buzzwords that they like to say.
Awesome.
Anyway,
okay.
on to the next one.
I guess so. All right, here we go. Jesus.
This is just a setup one. So we'll deal with the idiocy on the next one. But so that this person who was an LGBT person was like the classic. I don't actually recommend saying define women. I mean, they say it's just one of these conversation stoppers because like there isn't a single clear definition of women, just like there isn't a single clear definition of chair. Like we have loose definitions, but they always want a prescriptive one and they can't give one. They always embarrass themselves, just like this. So this person says define women. They say adult human female, which is, I mean, doesn't actually give us a definition. It's just 3 new words that we haven't defined. And then says with ovaries, which like, so I was like, you know what's coming next. So, like when you say a woman must have ovaries, surely you know, you've done this before. You know I'm about to link you like evidence of women without ovaries, right? We know, so dumb. But then he replies, if we go on to the next one, with, you know as well as I do that the vast majority of women have ovaries. Yes, I do know that. That was kind of my whole point. Most women do, but not all of them. So that makes your definition, your strict definition, the thing that you've created in order to say that trans women aren't women, excludes some cis women. So it's garbage. And then he then goes on to say, and those that don't are basically disabled. It would have been like having a missing arm at birth, unless they don't have a woman breast either, but do not have blah, blah, blah. Like, what is wrong with you? And of course, this is a gender critical man.
Oh my god.
Like, it's disgusting. And then they come out with this stuff all the time.
Basically disabled, like I'm defined somehow by like the ovaries are a necessity for me to be functioning in society as a human.
It's 2 layers. Like, it's disgusting because it's like saying that a woman who, you know, can't menstruate is like, you know, obviously looking down. They're using disabled as like a real like insulting term here, which is also disgusting. Even if it was a disability,
like you're not a complete woman unless you have ovaries and the ability to procreate, because that's the part of we need to make babies, or at least have the ability to make babies. Otherwise, and we aren't women, because that's part of it.
And he's trying to come up with a definition here to encompass all cis women and exclude all trans women. And when we found an exception, he's like, well, they're disabled, so they don't count. It's like, what are you saying, that disabled women aren't part of your definition of women? It's just so disgusting.
That's what this ridiculousness leads to, though, when you're purposefully attempting to make a prescriptive definition for the sole purpose of excluding a group of people who you don't want to extend that definition to, even though it already does. Just even though it does, you start to enter these absurdities where the people who you think you're protecting, or you say that you're fighting for, the cis women, because we all know we need dudes to go around and tell trans women that they aren't women for us, because we can't speak for ourselves, I guess. But fucking, it just, you end up excluding groups of the people that you say that you're speaking for.
Absolutely.
Also,
every
single time. Or you could just shut up. Like, that's an option you could take, I guess, but probably won't. But that would be preferable to me, but that's fine.
But yeah, this is just absolute, like, classic garbage gender critical argument that I literally see every single day, where they just come in, they're like, this is a strict definition of women, oh, it excludes some cis women, and then they're like, fuck off, or they block you, or they come up with some, or they just change the subject and like, what about Jessica Yano? You're like, well, you were just talking about your shit definition. Why are you trying to change the subject?
Yeah, or they'll slide back to go, well, everybody knows what we mean when we say woman. And it's like, well, that's the point. Like, now you're agreeing with me, actually. Once you've been cornered with what, like, your definition ends up cutting all kinds of people who are women off at the knees, because you constantly need to make it more and more restrictive in order to achieve what it seems that you're attempting to achieve. So once you come to that realization, you go, well, obviously everybody just tacitly kind of understands what I mean when I say woman. And we're like, well, yeah, fucking exactly. Ding, ding,
and also,
ding.
And just to finish it off here, I actually know a trans woman who was born with an ovary, and she's got like I can't remember. It's like genetic mosaicism or something. That might not be what it's called. But anyway, it's an interesting thing. And so it wouldn't even 100% exclude all trans women. So good job, dickhead. Next slide.
All right. Okay.
So this guy, I just included this as just like, I just want to make like it sort of show how all this prejudice is just the same. So this person says, not to sound arrogant, but when I compare the level of intellect and humor of the GC side, gender critical, to that of the TRA side, trans rights activists, a lot of my doubts disappear. So really what he's saying here is trans people are stupid and not funny, and all of my friends are. 469 likes. I'm not going to say nice.
Is this the argument from truth from funniness? Like, what is this?
Firstly, this is a classic. Doesn't make any sense. Like, there's not, your doubts should not disappear because your mate's funny. Like, your doubts should disappear because of evidence showing that it's the case.
That's how I discern truth. Whoever makes me laugh the hardest, I decide that I'm like, all right, well, clearly you've got the appropriate view on the truth of the statements that I'm currently assessing, because I laughed. So what are you gonna do?
That's bad news for this stream, because it now means that you believe that men and chimps are more like each other than.
Oh, that's true. Well, I don't make the rules. I don't think that's.
Also, this is such a classic. Like, what's a classic thing that all misogynists say, and I'm sure you face all the time, is when, because I do, it's when they get like, women aren't clever enough for arguing about atheism. Women aren't funny. Like, women aren't funny. Oh yeah, I hate it when women tell jokes because they're just never funny. Like, that's a classic misogynist thing. You know, it's a racist thing as well, where they say, oh, like, you know, black people don't have a sense of humor. Like, they just get so offended all the time. Or like, oh, they're not as clever. Like, it's a standard racist thing. It's a standard homophobic thing. It's just so obviously a standard transphobic thing. What are you saying? That trans people are innately less intelligent and innately less capable of humor? Like, and importantly here, I'm not trying to, what's the word? I'm not trying to, so he specifically said GC and TRA. And I'm not trying to switch out them saying TRA, isn't that, like, when they say TRA, they mean trans rights activist. And that sounds like they might be just accusing just activists. And so I'm not trying to replace what they've said for trans people in general, because that is what they're doing. This is a classic switcheroo thing that they do all the time, where they try and say, I don't hate trans people, I just hate the activists, which is what you see with, I don't hate black people, I just hate BLM, I don't hate women, I just hate feminists. Like, it's the same argument again. But to them, a trans rights activist is like a 16-year-old kid who wants to go to the toilet. Like, that makes you an activist. Like, if you're someone who, you know, has got married as, like, if you're a trans woman and you've got married as a woman, and people want to take that away from you and you say no, suddenly you're an activist. And it just means, in their mind, like, all trans people end up being activists, because if you want equality, like most people do, then suddenly you're an activist to them, and then they can call you unintelligent. So anyway, classic garbage switcheroo nonsense. All right. Sorry, just coughing. So this one is really vile. And would you like to
would I like to read it? Such an asshole.
Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, it might be my problem.
Uh-oh. I still have sound levels. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. Do we lose Katie? Can the chat hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. Yay, it wasn't me. I didn't cause the sound issue.
Oh no, Poppy. Oh, it was Poppy. It was Poppy standing on the cables.
I forgive Poppy. Poppy's adorable, so I forgive her. Okay. Also,
you're an asshole. Do you read out this masterpiece?
No, I don't, but I'm going to. They are. Oh god.
They're talking about me, by the way.
No, are you serious?
Yeah.
Katie, fuck. Okay. Oh.
I'm gonna have to translate some of the words in this for everyone.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
They are into tonguing, troon, taint, and rimming necrovaginas. They tried to fight for it for so long, but the urge was too strong. Katie, spelled incorrectly again, was too enticing for their gamp senses. Are all of those words even English? I don't know what troon is. I don't know what gamp is. Do I want to know what troon or gamp is?
So, try and guess.
Try and guess? Oh, I don't know. I know what taint is. I don't know what troon is. Is it like bums? Is it bums? Is troons bums?
Troon is a new slur for trans people.
Oh.
It's from like maybe 4chan or Kiwi Farms has come up with the slur troon, which means like just a trans person. So, and then a GAMP. GAMP is actually an acronym. It stands for gynoandromophile or gynoandromophilic, which is a slur for someone who is attracted to someone who has both male and female sex characteristics, which like classically could be a trans woman with a penis, but also could be like an intersex person, or I mean, I guess you could also say it maybe even about like drag queens, if they're presenting in a certain way. It's like a general slur.
That's fucking disgusting.
It is. This whole thing was really disgusting. It didn't make me laugh actually.
Why are they? They're being trans isn't about sexuality. It's about identity. Why so this has nothing to do with, and also fuck Jesus.
Imagine writing that out and thinking that you were like a good person. But anyway, this has actually happened here is I've recently been making friends with like a load of radical feminists, and like as in separate from like the gender critical movement has totally dropped feminism at this point, and it's just its own bullshit. But they used to come from trans exclusionary radical feminism, which is like a branch of radical feminism, and that's where the word TERF comes from. So you might hear TERF, but generally now most of the anti-trans movement aren't true TERFs because they're not radical feminists. But there are still some radical feminists at the edges of this movement, and they usually hate all the gender critical people because then none of them are feminists. I know I've been making friends with this like crew and talking to them, and some of them are like have shit views about trans people, some don't, but we can have discussions about feminism, blah 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 blah. Anyway, and one of them said like, one of them got accused by a load of gender critical people of talking to me. They're like, you've been talking to Katie Montgomery, like she's a TRA, and they're like, that makes you a TRA. And she was like, I'm not, like, I don't agree with anything Katie says. We just have talked on Twitter. And then they were like, so she said, I have been talking to Katie. I don't agree with anything she says. And they were like, she?
Oh! Oh, the attack dogs were like...
I know, exactly. So then they were like, you've been validating her vagina dress pronouns or whatever that was. Vagina dress pronouns.
I don't even know how to process the vagina. That goes on a shirt. Vagina dress. Go ahead.
So anyway, but then this lady was, the radical feminist lady was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then this is the reply to her. So this is this is to a cis woman, and they're talking about her. 10 likes, by the way, so not completely off the wall for gender criticals. They're saying you are doing these things. Like the fact that she bearing in mind she had said to them, I don't agree with anything that Katie says, but they just called me her or she or something. That was a cue to describe her like some sexually like this is like what like incels do, where they write disgusting sexual things to women who disagree with them. I mean, this I've included here. This person has XX in their screen name.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a classic gender critical thing to do, but they're probably a man, probably a cis man writing this because it's just too disgusting.
So
I mean, women can be disgusting, but like they like to pose and then they come and harass women for not being gender critical. So it's like a classic gender critical man thing to do. So it could be a woman, but.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay, so they're saying this to a woman. They're saying that woman, and they're using gender neutral pronouns to talk to her.
Yeah, because the first thing they'll do is accuse you of being a man, whoever you are, especially if you're like, you know, a cis woman or whatever. They'll just accuse you of being a man, and then if they can't get that, they'll like, it's like kind of like a purity test. Something you need to agree with us to be graced with the female pronouns, and then if you're not, then we will remove them for you. And like you see it at the time, they do it to trans people. They do it to cis people too. I've seen them switch to theys and thems for cis women. People they know are cis women. People who used to be in their movement who are just like, this is too crazy for me now. And then suddenly they all get called they, and it's like an insult for them. And then they'll go and say they won't say they for a non-binary person. So I don't know. You know, it's all contradictory nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Interesting. Next.
Okay.
So we've got a few more slides if we've got the time to go through
Yeah,
them.
no, we got like what, 5-6 more, I think. Yep, I think we're good.
So this was just a little satisfying cell phone that made me laugh. So I released my last video on YouTube, which you should all go and check out. It's called "I'm One of the Good Ones."
It's a really good video.
Oh, thank you.
Loved
Lots
it.
of mayonnaise destruction. So anyway, this guy replied saying like, "Your video's shit" or something, but he wrote something that didn't really make sense. Like he'd obviously just read the title and hadn't watched the video. It's like, "Oh, you're not one of the good ones," or something like that. And I was like, maybe if you'd watched the video, you would have been able to write a relevant reply. And then he said, like, he obviously thought like, "Oh, I'm going to be witty. I'm going to say something funny." And he said one thing and then he thought of another thing and he said that as well. But they ended up cancelling each other out. So he was like, "Listen, mate, I did watch it. Obviously, I fast forwarded the bits you chatting shit, which granted was all of it. So you didn't watch it then?"
I put it on the screen and then just hit play and then just went to the end, and that counts as watching it. That's the same thing.
Like, oh, well, okay, so you didn't watch it, so I was right. So you just kind of self-phone. And then he's like, "Haha, Mrs. Doubtfire was on the telly, hilarious, man dressed as an old lady." Like, I mean, is that was your attempt at like transphobia? Was it like, we just read about this fucking licking troon tame campaign, whatnot, and you're just saying Mrs. Doubtfire? Like, come on, mate, the game has moved on. I'm embarrassed for you, Mrs. Doubtfire. That wasn't even funny when I was a child. Like, nice try. Absolutely pathetic attempt. Oh, here's another one. I probably should have put this after the last one. Would you like to read? So this is, I think, a gender critical man.
Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me?
Okay. We don't really need the second paragraph, but the first paragraph this is just how they write. Like, I just think it's important to communicate how the kind of things they write. So go for it.
Okay. Fetishizing contempt of women for self-validation is something only a sissy porn brain-addled man masquerading as a poor simulacrum of the opposite sex would find alluring. Point is, men are not similarly situated with women's common experience of being born and growing up female.
That's the way they write it. Like, what they're trying to say here is, I mean, so you need so many layers of nonsense to decode this. What they're saying here is all trans women are perverts, and being a pervert who's in love with the idea of being a woman doesn't give you the same experience in life as a cis woman. And that's their argument. And they could have said that. They could have said, they could have come up, even though those things are bullshit, like, they could have just said, like, being a pervert who likes to wank off wearing dresses on a weekend isn't the same as being a cis woman. They could have said that. That could have been a real argument. And I could have said, yeah, that's true, but that's not what trans women are. But instead, they have to do this like deranged little fetishizing contempt for women is for self-validation from sissy porn adult brain. Like, why are you writing like this? Like, couldn't you just write like a person?
Because they have to obfuscate it in order. Yeah, because if they just flat out said it, it would be ridiculous. So they have to create and construct this word salad around what they really mean in order for their point to be inferred and then taken through that inference rather than directly stated. Because if it's directly stated, it's more easily refuted.
Absolutely. And also, like, that is absolutely their strategy. Mm-hmm. But also, I think that, like, I think it's disgust. I think that when they write all these long words, it's like getting more disgust out. Because if you just write fuck off at someone, it's not as good as when you're like, you know, you could write a more elaborate, like, dunk on someone or something.
Yeah. And
you get more rage out. And it's the same with disgust. Like, when you're just like, ugh, yuck. But you could be like, that's the most revolting thing I've ever set my eyes upon. It disgusts me to my very core. Like, you know, it's like dramatic. There's a previous episode of TERF Wars where, like, if you like this over the top garbage that we're seeing here, like the last two garbage things we've covered, if we just put them on a scale, we'll just say like garbage level 9, like they're pretty over the top. I swear that the scale doesn't just go up to 10; it goes up to 100. And there was a letter, someone's written that it's 100. I want to find out which episode it is to recommend it, but like, it's the most deranged thing I've ever read in my life. Anyway, next.
All right.
So this person says the EA, so EA is not EA Sports, here it is, the Equality Act 2010, which is our version of, it's like our human rights legislation. and there was one before it that was like the Equality Act 1999 or something. So the Equality Act 2010 is the law that they brought in to say you can't be sexist to women, you can't be homophobic to gay people. It's the similar thing that lots of Western countries have, where they have like a list of characteristics, like you can't discriminate against disabled people, you can't discriminate against people's religion, you know, that kind of stuff. And this person, this gender critical man, comes up with this excellent take. The Equality Act specifies that sex is a protected characteristic, meaning that you can discriminate on the basis of it.
That's what protection means. that tracks. That checks out.
Anyway, next.
That's just flatly stupid. Okay.
This one is kind of sad, and also kind of just horrifying. So this person, there's two parts to this. So every week I always try and do the alien head emoji for the most ridiculous conspiracy theory of the week. There's been a few this week, but I think this is it. This person says, and I've also just highlighting here, there's been a couple in the show. They have this checkered flag, which is like one of the gender critical dog whistles. And honestly, I can't believe how much of a cell phone this is, but it's a black and white flag because they believe like the world is like black and white. And that's like the thing. Anyway, they said, the trans cult has claimed my daughter. 543 likes, getting loads of sympathy from the gender criticals. And then they say, it's important people understand what this has got to do with the global agenda and the fourth industrial revolution being played outright by the technocrats. The transhumanist agenda, loss of identity. So this is what we were talking about earlier with their like the billionaires who just happened to be Jewish who invented trans rights in 2008. There's this thing that this lady called Jennifer Billock came up with, which is transgenderism is the advert for transhumanism. And she reckons that, these billionaires who just happen to be Jewish are trying to destroy humanity because, that's what they always end up doing, George Soros classic. And the way they're going to do it is with transhumanism, which is, transhumanism, like sci-fi stuff, like giving someone a robot eye or whatever, that kind of stuff, but like transcending the boundaries of humans. And they think that if once we get into the public conscious, the idea of trans people, where you can change your sex, then suddenly anything's up for grabs. So there are some gender criticals, like most gender criticals just hate trans people, but there are lots of them, lots of the big ones, who think this is some subplot of transhumanism. And so this person is blaming their son coming out as trans on the transhumanist agenda, which has globally brainwashed them for this is 174 likes. Like, this is quite Yikes. Mainstream gender critical belief. They think this is some big conspiracy, global agenda. Like you're saying, this is so QAnon, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same sort of logic where they just read posts and chat streams and without actually critically looking into anything, work themselves up into a fervor of like fear and paranoia where they're super susceptible to anything that they could piece together in some sort of loose narrative that makes sense of something they're afraid of. And then they just fly towards that full tilt. That's like what this is. Like, it's... And
especially when your kid is involved, because kids rightly so, make people emotional and they want to protect them. And when you're faced with this, like your daughter says, oh, I'm actually your son now, you could either be like, I can imagine that lots of parents who end up being supportive do struggle with it at the start. I think that's kind of not acceptable, but expected, given how trans people have been so, demonized for centuries. And you're just like, oh God, I don't like this. And people might go looking for excuses for it. And like, oh, what have I done? Why have they turned out like this? The classic things that all the homophobes did about gay people. And what all the religious people do about atheists, I guess, as well. It's like, oh, how has this happened to my kid? But another thing you can do is go and look for some shadowy cabal which has captured your child and ruined their life, and then you can dedicate your life to fighting against that to free them. And that's kind of what lots of them have done. But just to make this extra ridiculous, if we just go on to the next one. So someone's replied to the top right saying, how old is she, 23 now, came out at 15, but no medical interventions until now. So your tweet, like yesterday, saying the trans court has claimed my daughter, like that happened like 7 years ago or whatever. Like, what? Like, so it's not new news at all. They came out to you when they were 15, and you've done nothing to help them, and you still in some crazy idea that they've been brainwashed by some, like, ugh. And then this person does a classic gender critical meme. This is one of their little, like, you were asking about whether they have their own science. This is one. They say the brain isn't fully developed until 25, so she is still maturing. I hope it turns around for her. So they have this idea that you can't know you're trans until you're 26.
26. That's a specific age.
That's the name. That's the age.
Your brain just goes at that point, and you just recognize that you're like. So up until then, what, do you just not have a gender identity, or
up until then,
or you?
The argument they have is that most trans people will realize they're actually cis people. I mean, that's not what the science says, but that's their argument. That's their reasoning. So like, you'll grow out of it.
So they at 15. We'll use this girl as an example. At 15. I'm hesitant I'm going to use they, because I don't know whether or not the mother's appropriately using their current
absolutely pronouns. Certainly not. It's just guaranteed to be a trans boy.
So it's guaranteed to be okay, so he, then I'll use he. Yeah. So he, at the age of 15, came out and said, I'm a boy, and in their mind at 26 that can be affirmed, but not before then.
Yeah.
So all of that time, so that span, that almost a decade span of time from 15 to 26, or more than a decade span of time, 15 to 26, that what? Like, that's just a buffer room in case he changes his mind. And at 26, like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no logic.
So what this is post hoc. So one of the or a couple of the gender critical groups are actually openly campaigning for this, ban all trans healthcare for under 25s. That's like one of their things. That's one of, I guess it's like the B or C tier groups are pushing for this. The top groups aren't yet, but they're still focusing on banning it for under 18s. But yeah, so grim.
Because that's just going to put if they keep making that argumentation, then you never get to the point that you can actually affirm your own identity.
That's the point.
Which is the point, probably, is that they just keep kicking the can down the road until eventually you can decide on your deathbed, and before that you still need room to be able to change your mind.
Yeah, and then like the classic is they'll be like, no, you got to wait, and then when you wait, they'll be like, you should have done it earlier. Like, why didn't you do it earlier? You're obviously not devoted enough. You're not dedicated enough. It can't be bad enough for you. And also then they'll say, well, you don't pass, so you don't deserve any rights. So it's all disgusting. All fights, yeah. But like, it's just, I don't know, classic. It's just so like, just this person has been fighting their kid for like 8 years. For what? Like, you join some fucking cult rather than just say, I love you, son. Like, right. Just get over yourself. It's so pathetic.
And this Twitter warrior comes in with his horrible brain science that doesn't make any sense, that has no relation to this child. Well, grown up now. He's 23. He's 23 years old. Comes in, no relation to this man, and just says that his brain isn't developed enough to make a decision about his own identity. Like, when did he figure he was cis? Like, does the same go for cis people? Do you have to wait to decide, like,
puberty blockers till 26, mate?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's because until then we can't really know. Like, we'll just have to. All of us need to just wait until our brain is developed enough to make a decision on whether we're cis or not. I guess. Like, that's a double standard? That's horrible.
Yeah. Garbage. Anyway, on to the next one. We're on to the home street now. This person. So I brought up the analogy between being trans and being gay, and also being trans and gay and being left-handed. Mm-hmm. And I use this analogy a lot because it's something you're born, that we know definitely exists, that in the past people have been punished for, that we know that you can kind of force people to, like, like repress it, but you can't just change someone. And it's something that you can't measure like directly. You can't get a ruler out and measure it. You have to, I mean, you just trust people. Like if I say to you, are you right-handed, left-handed? That is the best way for me to find out. And it's the same way the best way for me to find out about your sexuality, and it's the same way best way for me to find out whether you're trans or cis. So I think it's a good comparison for a lot of reasons. It's something in your brain. It's not a decision. It's not a reaction to something. Anyway, so then someone replied to me saying, exactly, the fact that I'm left-handed is a property of my brain. No one could know about it until I was old enough for my handedness to emerge. It's still a material reality for me. It would cause me a lot of pain if I was forced to change it. So exactly like sexuality, exactly like being trans. And then this person comes in, there's a couple of idiots who are trying to tag team here. One of them says, you don't need to change it. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the whole point. That's what we're arguing. You don't need to change being trans. But you can't force others to start shaking hands with their left to appease your ego.
Oh my God. What is he getting at? What does he think that trans people are forcing people to do to appease their ego? Like, I don't understand.
What is this argument? Like, if someone came up and put their left hand out to shake my hand, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
probably.
I wouldn't be like, I'm not appeasing your ego.
Who do you think you are?
If I do
Most
that,
people
exactly
are
that.
right-handed. You expect me to just accommodate you?
Yeah, it's just so ridiculous. I mean, what happens if their like right hand is injured, or you know they can't shake with their right hand for some reason, or like I just don't. It doesn't matter to me. Like shaking hands with right hands is just because most people are right-handed. So that's kind of some kind of technically prejudiced bullshit. Like I just don't care. And like whose ego are we appeasing here? Would it be appeasing your ego if you wouldn't shake hands with a left-handed person? Total garbage. But anyway, if we go on to the next one, his mate tries to jump in and says, above all else, literally having a stronger hand is not comparable in any way to wanting to be the opposite sex. If we were comparing this, it's right-handed person demanding everybody treat them as a left-handed person. That's nonsense. I was like, this is another failmate. Like, you guys are so bad. This is like what you've described. It's someone who you're saying is right-handed and they're saying, no, I'm left-handed. Like, that's the exact situation. Yeah. You just completely owned yourself. And then they had a little meltdown. And this is a classic for anyone who's been watching TERF Wars. They have an issue with me saying mate, because mate is the man word that only men say, apart from in Australia and Bristol and London and Scotland and like most of the English-speaking world. But not middle-class England and not, I guess, bits of America. Do you say mate in Canada?
No, not really. No.
Okay. Well, there you go. The Canadians also don't say it. But like,
bud. What's up, bud?
Not your bloody pal.
Speak English.
Yeah. So anyway, this person had to tell mate, but I'd just like to point out that I didn't actually say mate in my reply. So this person knows that I've just said mate in the past. And that's the thing. And sometimes they'll just reply with just the word mate to me as if that's like proof that I'm a man. This person says, mate. I don't decide that trans women are male mate. They mate are male mate like mate. Just because your mate has hand.
Fucking take that, Katie. That's the most cogent argument I've seen since we started.
Just because your mate has hand dysphoria, left-handed person, they're just left-handed, mate. What are you talking about?
Hand dysphoria. You have to descend into like the most absurd ways of describing the world to try to.
And it's like just because they have hand dysphoria, that doesn't mean they are the other-handed person. If they are indeed left-handed, then they are biologically left-handed, not trans-handed. What are you trying to do here, mate? Oh my God. I'm comparing being trans to being left-handed, not being a woman to being left-handed. You totally misunderstood. Well, you haven't misunderstood this. You're just too stupid to understand what I'm saying. And just completely owned yourself. Hand dysphoria. Someone with hand dysphoria is a left-handed person being forced to write with their right hand. Yeah. That's what hand dysphoria would be. So again, you've just literally the point I just pointed out, you self-owned yourself, and you made the same argument again.
The meltdown, though. It's the meltdown for me. Mate.
Yeah.
Oh, don't decide, mate. Mate.
I didn't even say mate.
Take that. Okay.
So anyway, we're on to the last one now, and the last one did the rounds on Twitter. It was so we're discussing sexuality here, and a classic gender critical argument is that the one they always go in for is they'll say lesbians aren't attracted to trans women, and they usually try and focus on genitals here, and they want to say this argument because it's emotive, because they want to say, oh, for centuries, cis men have been like pressuring lesbians into sex and saying, oh, you just haven't found the right man yet. And now trans women are exactly the same. And that's the argument they're trying to make. But they're making this assertion that lesbians aren't attracted to trans women. And for that, but unfortunately, we know this one fact, which is you can't always tell who's trans, even naked. Some trans people pass naked. Like, that's just a fact. That's not an opinion. That is verifiable fact, because there are countless examples. I've actually written an article called No, You Can't Always Tell, which lists countless examples in history, like over 100 years ago, where trans people like lived their entire life without people knowing that they were trans. And like there are classic examples, even in recent history, like Nikki Tutorials got blackmailed into coming out by someone who found out she was trans. But you couldn't blackmail someone into coming out if you could tell they were trans already. Like, it's just complete nonsense. Anyway, so when they make this argument, it's actually kind of nonsense, because they're saying that you would be able to always magically tell whether someone's trans or not, so that your attraction wouldn't kick in. And obviously you're not just attracted to chromosomes. Like, it's a rubbish argument. So someone has then said, like, people aren't attracted to chromosomes. Someone called Mark perhaps said that. I should have censored the name. But Mark apparently has said, people aren't attracted to chromosomes, and then someone says chromosomes affect physical appearance, and this is like technically true. Like they are obviously, chromosomes are a thing that factors into your entire makeup as a person.
Yeah, but also just because you're attracted to women or men or whoever or both doesn't mean that you're attracted to all women or men or whoever or both. So
and also
there's a whole spectrum of physical appearance within the gender spectrum also. So like there's men and women I am attracted to, and men and women I am not attracted to, who are men and women.
It doesn't make them not men and women, because
just because I'm not attracted to them, that's not the metric by which we measure somebody's ability to be the gender that they are, is whether or not a group of people or someone is attracted to that gender and also them. Because
and do you know who does rate people whether they're successful man or woman on their attractiveness? As the misogynists. Oh, you're not attractive to me, so you're not a real woman. Like, that's a classic argument. Anyway, so they've made this argument, but obviously the whole point here is, like, this is a rubbish argument. This chromosomes don't affect physical appearance is a rubbish argument, because 93 likes, because obviously trans women transition, trans men transition, and that affects your appearance. Like, my appearance has changed, believe it or not. And because chromosomes aren't the only thing that affects your appearance, and hormones have a much bigger effect, and various other things. But then this person says, pity, transition doesn't help with hand and foot size, femur insertion points, knee angle, pelvic structure, supraorbital ridge, height is actually.
I know that I have been on the verge of dating someone and been like,
oh, Poppy,
your femur insertion points just don't do it for me. Oh, we can't hear again.
Goodness sake. Sorry.
Poor Poppy. Poppy just wants to be part of the show. Uh-oh.
What can I do? Can you talk again?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Poppy.
Uh-oh.
Absolute rat.
While Katie's going off to do that, I'm just going to direct people again to the fundraiser that's in the description. There's a fundraiser in the description for my friend's son, Theodore, who is going to get his top surgery, and he needs help
you're back.
to get there. So if you could, while Katie's getting back on, if you could check that out, there's a GoFundMe in the description to help Theo. He's somebody I know personally that I want to help if I can by using my platform to direct other people to also help him. If you're so inclined, it would be really cool if by the end of tonight he was able to book his tickets to go get his surgery in Montreal because he didn't have to worry about finances. That would be super cool. Anyway, hi, you can hear me again.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, Poppy, I don't know quite. There's some wire that must be loose, and she's just stood in it twice, and it's taken the sound out. Anyway, I'm back, and I'm watching.
If there weren't a sound issue, it wouldn't be my channel, Katie. Like, that's like literally my brand. My whole brand is just sound issues, wall to wall. I was just in the midst of saying that I've been on the brink of dating someone and then really had to just cut it off because their femur insertion points just weren't up to my standards. Like, I'm not sure. It's not you, it's me. I just really have this thing for femur insertion points and appropriate knee angle. So it's not going to work out between us, but it's been fun.
Look how feminine my knee angle is.
Wow.
Like, what are you talking about? But this is such a garbage argument because transition does affect all of this if it's before puberty, obviously,
Sure, yeah.
because the thing that changes your appearance in puberty isn't your chromosomes, it's your hormones. So that's just garbage. And like some of this stuff changes even if you transition after puberty, like your, for example, your pelvis structure doesn't stop growing until like a young adult. So some people, their pelvis can still change shape even when they start transitioning at like 20 or 21. Just nonsense. And also supraorbital ridge, you can grind off. Like you can have your face peeled back and you can have it ground right off because I've done it. So just nonsense, just more ignorance, and just where they come up with this stuff like, oh, you're not a real woman because your knee angle's wrong. That's my new definition. Must have ovaries, must have the right knee angle.
Appropriate femur insertion points. We're at the end. We did it.
We're at the end.
I didn't even cry. They're off the screen now. So I'm safe. Oh my gosh. I should have drank something other than water today. I've learned my lesson. I should have had rum, but
yeah,
you live, you learn.
So I guess this is like the kind of standard TERF Wars. I mean, often there's more news stuff, and sometimes it's really bleak. Like there's some weeks where they're like, we've taken healthcare away from children at Christmas, and then we reported their parents to social services. Like some of it is really bleak. Some of the news is like good, like, you know, a couple of good news, but there's this kind of roller coaster of like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever read. This is the most disgusting thing I've ever read. This is someone absolutely owning themselves. This is someone ruining a child's life. And like, that's just every day talking with the gender critical movement. Don't you dare.
Oh, Poppy.
Come down here, this way. Oh, she's the right rat. Sorry. Oh,
you're good.
She's messed up my green screen now as well. Oh, you can't sit on this. Sorry. Okay. But yeah, like, this is what TERF was. Like,
oh, Poppy. She says, Mommy, pay attention to me. We are going to take questions. I have a couple of super chats, so I will read those. I can move this now because I'm not screen sharing. Look at me. Okay, so from Detached Astronaut, YouTube stole my avatar. I am very sorry to hear that. Oh, I have a new channel member. That's cool. Oh, yeah, there's ways to support the channel. You could. This is gonna be demonetized all the fuck.
So like,
which is fine.
Send us some super chats.
Yeah, you can send super chats, or there's like a patron, but I don't really ever charge anybody in my Patreon, or there's channel memberships or PayPal and stuff. But or don't just enjoy the content. And
send Shannon money. She's lovely.
Or whatever. Only if you can. Don't worry about it. It's. I get weird when I'm talking about supporting the channel. It's like, it's almost as though I feel like I shouldn't get it. It's like a weird imposter syndrome thing that I have. The next one is Nayaropasca. I'm so sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. Please forgive me. I can't understand people thinking Katie looks masculine. Me either. Because she's not. She's incredibly feminine. But yeah.
Mate, that's just because you haven't seen my femur insertion point.
Have you looked at her knees? Jesus Christ. So stupid. Unreal.
The thing is that they don't, I mean, maybe they do think it. You can get into a situation where you like trick your brain into clocking all kinds of nonsense, and you end up thinking like 50% of cis women are trans women. It's a thing that sometimes trans women get into. I kind of like overtrained my brain when I was transitioning, and I'd start noticing all these things on people and be like, it'd be like, oh, that's a prominent brow ridge, and it's a horrible way of thinking. But you can't ever get good at clocking trans people in that manner. But like often these people would, like they say, I was going to include one in here where someone just came in and was like, oh, I can tell you're trans because I can see your 5 o'clock shadow and I can see your fake cheekbones. And like, I don't have, like, it's not an opinion. I literally just don't have fake 5 o'clock shadow because it's lasered off. And also my cheekbones, this is my not real cheekbones. I've never had surgery on my cheekbone. And the thing is, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter whether they think you look masculine. They have to believe that they can always tell. That's like part of their ideology. So they just say they can. And they have, oh, well, I'm sure I'd be able to tell in real life that, you know, just come up. And then also they just pick random things of you and just insult it because they hope you're insecure about it. It doesn't matter whether it's real or not. They literally don't care. And it's, you know, it's the same stuff that they do with just like all women.
I was just going to say, there's nothing more, there's no more female experience than somebody picking apart, like, whatever tiny detail of your physical appearance they think that they can utilize to make you feel small or unattractive or unworthy by attempting to tether you and your sense of self-worth to specifically your physical appearance and how other people ascribe value to that physical appearance, meaning that you do actually have value. They need you to believe that. That is a very misogynistic way of interacting with women in the world. That is what a woman's experience is like, and that's why you're experiencing it, because they're being misogynistic to you while trying to also tell you you're not a woman, which is the peak irony. The stupidity of it is utterly insane to me.
It's so dumb and it's so common. But yeah.
I'm very sorry that you have you run head first into it too, though. Like you are just, I do not have your gusto or your mental strength, because you're just like, let's go right into it. Let's go talk to the knobheads. You're just like, dive into the pool of knobheads. And just, I don't know how you do it.
It's like with some of this stuff, like where you get these people who'll be, write all this like deranged like stuff about troons and gamps and like femur insertion points and stuff. Like, it's so easy to humiliate them because the power they have is upsetting you by writing horrible things about you. And when you just like, you just kind of ignore that. I'm here for a structured argument. I want to know what your assertion is. And they'll be like, all this disgusting stuff about me. And I'm like, so let me just steel man your position. You're saying that you can always tell. Is that what you're saying? And they'll be like, oh no, she hasn't reacted in horror. She hasn't like tried to block me. She hasn't done like, oh no. And then they have to stick to their argument because they're incapable of backing down. And they can't, because the argument is indefensible. And then you just embarrass them. And then it just takes all their power away. And, you know, sometimes they do get upset by it. But from these like rank and file dickheads, like never. And they never say, like when they write all this stuff, like when I was that disgusting one I made you read out when I first read that, like literally
you are an asshole, by the way, for purposely.
Really disgusting you've ever said. I'm gonna definitely clip it out and put it on my TikTok.
Oh, I'm sure you will. I'm looking forward to that later. I'm looking forward to getting tagged. And can you believe Shannon Q said?
About me.
Could you hear what Shannon Q said to Katie Montgomery on the show the other day? Just audio only of the cartoon of me just saying troon, and then
I just troon's such an embarrassing slur. Like when someone calls me a troon, I just feels like they just call me like poo head or something. It's like, troon, is that you think that's cutting?
It doesn't have a lot of power to it, does it? Like there's no guttural sort of visceral to it. It's like no oomph.
There were some real swear words that are not nice to hear, and that is not one of them. And that is a fun one.
We just got a bunch
of appropriate
more chats, I think. Okay.
Oh yeah, do it. Is there more?
Yeah, there are. And then we should go. Grace, thank you. Grace just sent $19 and says you're amazing. Thanks, Grace. You're amazing too. We appreciate you.
You are amazing.
No, you are. April Van Rant, because you're both beautiful to me. Thank you, April. We appreciate it. Conservative Non-Believer, who's been here quite a bit lately. Hi.
Oh, hi,
And on
Susan.
Twitter as well. Two of my favorite personalities in one place. Watch you both later. Thanks for the content. Cool. Hopefully you like it. And then April sent another one, but I can't see it. And I don't know why I can't see it. YouTube. Oh, so glad I don't suffer from cisgenderism. I am almost 40 years sufferer of cisgenderism
Afflicted.
myself. It's hard sometimes.
Your brain doesn't finish developing until you're 45, though, so you might grow out of it.
Oh, you're
so.
right. You're right. That's fair. That's a valid point. All right. Well, everybody needs to go subscribe to Katie's channel. I will not accept any excuses. Everybody just go do it right now.
Coming up to 10K.
Yeah, if I don't see an immediate spike in Katie's subscriber count as a result of this, I am rage quitting the internet. I probably won't, but maybe for a day. I'll go maybe for the night. But you should. You would enjoy it. So Katie, thank you very much for coming. I'm putting up my end screen so people can't see us now, so you can make faces if you'd like. I appreciate you coming. Go check out the links in the description for both Katie's channel and for the fundraiser. And as always, everyone, help elevate the discourse. Bye.
Bye.